This happened a decent while ago, back when I was 22. Enough years have passed to the point where I feel safe talking about it. I was fresh out of college with a desirable job and minimal expenses since I was living in my childhood home with my parents. Imagine that, racking up considerable savings without having to worry about food or a place to sleep. And all the while, I had full access to the room I grew up in, my car, and all my hometown comforts. It's safe to say I was living in pure bliss. Believe me, I knew how lucky I was to have parents who allowed me to stay at home rent-free. I know a lot of people don't have that option, so it was something I never took for granted. But not everything was as stress-free as you might think. What I'm about to tell you happened not even 1 month into my time back at home. I've never been what people my age like to call a party girl. I don't drink excessively, I don't spend every ounce of free time at clubs, and I definitely don't allow men to dictate my life. That's just how I was raised. My father is the most important man in my life, and hookup culture disgusts me. Because of that, my life is pretty routine. Wake up, get my caffeine fix, go to work, hit the gym, read at home, scroll on my phone, and go to sleep. Weekends were for hiking, road trips, board games, and whatever else I felt like doing. But one random weekend, my closest friend from college, Claire, invited me and our other 2 friends, Naomi and Bella, to spend a few days at her family's beach house. I'd never been, but from the way Claire described it, the place sounded like a dream. Quiet, tucked away from tourist chaos, sitting on its own private beach just a short walk from the water. To put it bluntly, Claire's family was loaded. Both her parents were neurosurgeons, so I had a feeling their beach house would be insane. And I wasn't disappointed. When I first saw it, I was struck. Modern, sleek, it looked more like some covert military safe house than a vacation spot. We unloaded our stuff and picked where to sleep. Of course, there were plenty of bedrooms for each of us, but we thought it would be more fun to share one, a kid's room with bunk beds and its own bathroom. We'd been there 3 nights already, which is about as long as I can spend around people before getting irritable. But honestly, everything was going smoothly, and if there was ever a time to drink, this was it. That first night, though, we wanted to keep it chill. We walked down to the private beach, sat in the sand, sipped White Claws, and listened to music on Naomi's speaker while staring at the stars. That's when we noticed it. A faint, flickering light in the distance down the shore. At first, it was hard to tell what it was, but eventually it became clear. The light was swinging side to side like a flashlight. Before long, we realized it was a group of 3 or 4 people walking toward us. As they got closer, we heard laughter, which put us a little more at ease. A guy's voice called out, "Hi," and sounded about our age. Bella shouted back, and we made some small talk as they approached. Turned out it was 3 guys. They looked maybe a year or 2 older than us, all with that typical beach boy look. I could tell immediately my friends were interested, especially Bella. She's always been a little wild when it comes to guys. They sat down with us, cracked open their beers, and the 7 of us kept drinking. They weren't overbearing, but they weren't boring either. An hour later, they invited us back to their place. Personally, I was exhausted and leaning towards sleep, but all 3 of my friends clearly wanted to go, especially Bella. So I didn't ruin the fun. I called it a night, told them to go without me, and walked back to Claire's house while the 6 of them headed down the beach with the guys. I washed up and went to bed. Sometime after 3 a.m., I woke up to a FaceTime call from Claire. Confused, I answered groggily, but her words jolted me awake instantly. She screamed that Bella and Naomi had been kidnapped and I needed to get her car immediately. Her words hit me like ice water. My hands shook as I threw on clothes and ran downstairs. I asked her why she called me instead of the police, but she said she already had. She stayed on the line as I opened the gate, grabbed her car keys, and sped off. She said they were about 10 houses down the beach. She described the car, told me the direction it went, and I slammed the gas. After a few minutes, I spotted the vehicle. I hung up, called the police, and gave them my location. Dispatch told me to keep my distance, so I did. Finally, flashing lights appeared up ahead. The car didn't try to run. Maybe they thought it was just a routine stop. Then chaos erupted. Police yanked all 3 men out at gunpoint, cuffed them, and shoved them into cruisers. When an officer popped the trunk, I saw them, Naomi and Bella, bound and bruised. It was horrifying. Later, I learned the guys had been using a house that didn't even belong to them. It was some elderly couple's vacation home. On top of that, they had a string of other charges, and Bella's lawyer parents made sure they got maximum sentences. The whole ordeal traumatized me for years. I couldn't do beaches, late nights, or even talk to strangers. I went antisocial, drifting away from the girls for a while. But I know I was lucky. If I hadn't gone home that night, I might not have been able to reach Claire's car in time. And if that hadn't happened, police may never have found that SUV. It was close to 2 in the morning, and I was still awake in the beach house we had rented for the week. Everyone else was asleep, but I couldn't settle down. The ocean waves outside were loud, and I'd been scrolling on my phone, telling myself I'd sleep in a minute. That's when I heard it, a soft, metallic click, almost like the sound of a doorknob turning. At first, I thought maybe the wind was messing with the old frame of the house, but then it came again, a slow, deliberate jiggle of the handle right at the back door. I froze in bed, listening. It wasn't just the door anymore. I could hear the faint crunch of footsteps on the wooden deck outside. Someone was out there. My heart was pounding. I quietly got up in bed and toe-toed to the hallway, trying not to wake the others. The sound moved from the back door to the side window. The faint scrape of metal on glass. Someone was trying to pry it open. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a heavy lamp, and stood in the shadows, my ears straining. The window creaked. Slowly, it started to slide open. That's when I finally saw him, a shadowy figure, half inside, wearing a dark hoodie and gloves. He froze when he realized I was standing there. For a moment, it felt like time stopped, just me and him staring at each other in the dark. Then he whispered, "Don't scream." I didn't move, didn't blink. The lamp in my hand was shaking, but I gripped it tighter. Suddenly, footsteps thundered from upstairs. One of my friends had woken up and rushed down, yelling, "What's going on?" The intruder panicked. He pulled back through the window, nearly falling off the deck as he ran. We heard him sprint across the sand outside until his footsteps disappeared into the night. We locked every door and window, turned on all the lights, and waited until morning, sitting together in the living room. Nobody went back to sleep. When the sun finally came up, we went outside to check. There in the sand, leading right up to the deck, were footprints. But here's the part that still gives me chills. There weren't just one set of footprints, there were 2. The second set of footprints circled the house, around and around, like someone had been watching us all night before the other one even tried to get in. We never saw anyone on the beach after that, but every night for the rest of the trip, we took turns staying awake just in case they decided to come back. And sometimes, when I can't sleep at night, I still hear that faint sound, the slow, quiet jiggle of a doorknob, like someone is always testing, waiting for the right moment to come inside. This happened a few months ago, back in the spring. I'd just graduated, stuck in that weird in-between stage of life. No job yet, too much free time, nothing to do with it. Most of my friends were still in school, so I was just floating. That's probably why I said yes when my mom asked me to check on my Uncle Rick's beach house in Delaware. Just a quick drive from Pennsylvania. Run through a checklist, head home, easy. The house is huge. Normally, it's packed wall to wall with my family every summer. Board games, loud laughter, drinking. But when I walked in that evening, silence. It didn't feel like the same house. It felt abandoned. I decided I'd stay the night instead of driving back in the dark. For once, I had my pick of rooms, so I chose the master bedroom. King-sized bed, private bath, walk-in closet, luxury. I fell asleep quickly, but something woke me. In the middle of the night, a sound from the closet. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I told myself, just roll over, close your eyes, go back to sleep. Then it happened again, a dull, muffled thump. That's when my body froze. Not fear this time, actual paralysis. My eyes cracked open, just enough to see the closet door slowly creak open, and a figure stepped out. Dark, motionless, standing right beside my bed, watching me. Seconds dragged on like hours. Then it turned and walked out of the room. I listened. The footsteps didn't go downstairs. They went up to the third floor, a dead end, no exits. When I finally broke out of the paralysis, I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, whispered to the dispatcher that someone was inside. I locked my door and waited. Red and blue lights flooded the windows. Police stormed in, swept the house, and told me it was empty. But I knew better. I called my uncle. He snapped at the officers, told them to search again. This time, I followed. Every closet, every bathroom, every lock. And that's when they found it. An unlocked window on the third floor. One cop stayed inside. Another stepped out onto the deck. He raised his flashlight, scanning the roof. And that's where we saw him. A bald man, filthy, clothes in tatters, just sitting there, on the roof, staring, vacant, unmoving. They got him down in cuffs, said he was probably homeless, squatting in the house. But when they asked him how he got in, how long he'd been there, and why he was hiding in the closet, he didn't answer. He just kept staring. I still don't know how he made it onto the roof. And I can't stop thinking about one thing. If I'd slept in my usual third-floor room that night, I might not be here to tell this story.